Welcome to the Outer Realm with Michelle Desrochers and Amelia Pisano. Airing live on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM in New Orleans.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Thursday night segment of The Outer Realm. We are broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network, UFO, Paranormal Radio Network, 105.3 from the Gulf Coast and 107.7 FM from New Orleans. We are fully sponsored by the amazing people over at Folgers Coffee who have been a part of our journey since the very beginning. So thank you, Folgers. We appreciate you so very much. Also, big thank you to Dr. Snick, the sonic surgeon, aka Justin Snicker, for his contribution of his voice, his music, and his time for the intro that you just heard. He's an award-winning composer of Halloween, horror, hi-fi, and dark wave electronic music, which can be found, of course, on all of your favorite music streaming platforms. Also, big thank you to Steve McGinnis, the artist behind the banners and logos at the show. Check him out on Facebook and Instagram. Also specializes in the horror genre, does phenomenal commission pieces. So check him out. See what he can do for you. There's a lot of great graphic novels as well. Anyway, tonight is a lot of fun because we welcome back Dr. Rita Louise, who has been on before, but not for quite a while. So we're really happy to have her lined up for a few episodes with us this coming few months. Tonight, we're talking about her newest book, which is Dang It. It was me all along, Cultivate Happiness Through Mindful Awareness. You guys are always forever hearing me carrying on about raising vibrations, working on your mindset, manifest your reality, you attract what you put out, just things of that nature. So without further ado, Dr. Rita Louise, and we're going to have a blast tonight. So chime in. Hello.
Hey, Michelle. It is so cool to be here with you.
Oh, thank you. It's just so nice to have you back. We always have such a good time with you. I know Amelia's under the weather. She's just like, oh, come on. It's like, I know. Sorry. So, we'll have another shot at you.
Okay.
Yes. So you have this amazing new book out, and I'm just going to share it up right now as we speak. And there, bam.
There it is.
I love it.
How do you make that happen? Actually, I figured it out, but maybe. Anyway.
Yes.
I'm going I'm having a little mental technical going, hey, how does she have the people and the picture? But I think mentally I figured it out. But
I know. It's got cute little options on here you get to fiddle with. This is one of them. I love it because I do this face pretty much daily, So, I mean, you are just known for a lot of really wild books that are really more on the high strangeness side, except when we did that article on, the psychic and the empath and the narcissist, which was a phenomenal segment. But right there we go. Let's just remove this one so we can see it. There we go.
Here we grab it.
Yeah. Yes. There we go.
This one during my live stream that just ended 14 minutes ago. So.
Oh. Wow. Okay. Wow. Well, thank you for just popping on after the break and heading over here. So what made you decide? Why this book? Why this topic?
Okay. So the last book was The Dysfunctional Dance of the Empath and Narcissist, the book that I just held up.
Right.
Or the prior book. And I wrote that book because I came to the realization that most of the relationships that I had been, both romantic and personal, had been with very narcissistic people.
Right.
And so my goal in that book was to figure out all the secrets of narcissism and what was going on and how to spot the red flags and figure out because I really didn't understand it. And once I have a question in mind, I want an answer. So I
Even if
did
you gotta go digging. Right.
turn into that book.
Right.
And so I finished the book, and as I'm ending it, I meet this guy who seemed great, and he was a safe place to land. That was the phrase that I tied to him.
Right.
You know, and at the time I was like, well, I've solved all my relationship issues. I figured all about narcissism, and I was taking it out for a test run.
Right.
And discovered that he was just as bad, except he was more covert than everybody else and was kind of emotionally unavailable.
Right.
So that relationship ended. But at the same time, you know, we had COVID, and, you know, we're going to talk about kind of the law of attraction. It's like the relationship was suffering. I was suffering emotionally, which caused my business to really suffer.
Right.
So I was in this place where it's like, okay, do I need to go get a day job? I mean, I've been doing intuitive work, you know, for a long, long time and have not had a day job other than like working at Starbucks. And all I really wanted was to be happy.
Right.
You know, and have contentment in my life. I'm like, content is okay. I don't even have to be happy. I could just be not miserable.
Right.
I wasn't sure if that was something that you could go after, if that was something that you could achieve, or, you know, is your little miserable inside self what you've got to work with and you're stuck with it. And I didn't know. And so that sent me on this journey of, you know, finding out if some happiness was something you could cultivate. And once I got that answer, it was like, sweet. So how
It's a
can you do it?
Right.
You know, and the first thing that I came to the realization of was, you know, you look around the room, you get rid of these people, you know, blah, blah, blah. And the only one left in the mirror is you. And so I really had to kind of take ownership of, well, maybe all of this stuff going on and my unhappiness didn't have anything to do with the people around me. It had to do with me.
Wow.
Thus the title.
That's pretty profound when you think about it, because you're taking accountability almost for other people's behaviors. And I get why, because it's like we allow it to happen.
That was the word that came up. It's like you allowed all of this crap to happen and you allowed their bad behavior.
Right.
And that was a kind of eye opener, like,
Right.
you know, it was my part. You know, you always sit there and go, well, this was them and this is what they did and this was what they did. But we don't often stop and take that step back and reflect on what was my part in this whole dynamic.
Right.
My part was I allowed it to happen versus booting them to the door and saying, I don't need to take this.
I guess it comes back, you know, to that one saying where we cannot control what goes on in the world or things that go on around us necessarily, but we can control how we deal with it.
Mm-hmm. Right. Or if we want to deal with it, or whether we want to extricate ourselves from the situation and say, no more. I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to deal with you. You know, you're messing up my mojo.
We messing with my mojo, right?
My mojo. And it's like, you know, and that was one of the things that I did, was that I made a commitment to myself that my happiness was the most important thing. And if I'm interacting with people that leave me not happy, you know, on a consistent basis. I mean, you know, we have disagreement with people that we know and we, you know, whatever. Right. But if that's the regular thing that's happening, then, you know, the commitment I made to myself was, well, you need to stop and decide, is it worth it? You know, is having my happiness be impacted,
Right.
worth having this person in my life.
Right.
You know,
That is a hard pill to swallow.
it is a hard pill, and I want to say that in this book, it really is about what's going on inside of you and what all of the moving parts. When we think about medicine, we know what the liver does, and we know what the gallbladder does, and we know what the lungs do.
Mm-hmm.
It comes to our inner, and I'm going to say mental and emotional experiences, not so much. And we can't really address things. We can't fix things, unless you really understand what's going on inside. And so just because you feel bad, if you can't like point to your appendix and go, well, it hurts here, and somebody goes, oh, that's your appendix,
Right.
it can't ever get fixed.
Right.
And so even though we're talking about relationships, that's kind of the end of the road, because you need to fix this first.
Right.
And then you can start dealing with relationships, or noticing like, well, when I'm sitting on top of the mountain, in a Zen position, in my little yogic position in a row, I'm great.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yes. But
It's just when I deal with these stupid people that
boy, there's lots of those lately. At least in my world, I'm kind of like, what do I just drive a magnet on my back? What is this? But I just think because it's not just relationships, right? I mean, you can run across this with coworkers. You can come across this with family members.
Molly,
That's a tough one because you can't choose your family.
family, I say, is the PhD in dealing with yourself and dealing with your choices, and it can be the hardest. But
Right.
if you have a challenging family,
Mhm.
and you get to the place where you can navigate a Thanksgiving dinner and not get upset,
Mhm.
you have mastered your inner world.
Right. Oh man. Well, I mean, I can definitely do that. I'm pretty in control. So you know what it is with me, Dr. Rita? I
What?
have a zero bullshit meter, and I have a hard time with stupidity. So if somebody says something that's just like kind of out there, and it's just really, my face kind of does this thing, and I'm like, what the hell did you just say? And that's really where I have less self-control, let's say, than putting up with, like narcissistic people. I don't even think all narcissistic people realize they're narcissistic.
They don't. I don't think any of them realize it.
See, that's crazy. Now, and then, which brings me to Marty saying, are narcissists generally highly intelligent? I don't
They
know.
can be. They can be.
Yeah.
Um,
But they don't see it in themselves. Because some narcissists scream narcissist the loudest for other people.
but they can always sit there and point their finger at somebody else who's more narcissistic. And so obviously it's not them,
No,
going
but
on.
even people who aren't narcissistic. I've seen narcissists scream narcissist, and everybody else is the narcissist. They post about it, they go on about it, and I find it takes away from people who are really victims of narcissists. Like, so because people get so used to seeing the word in every situation that when you have somebody who's really victimized, it's hard I feel it takes away from their plight, what they're going through.
Mm-hmm. Well, but a narcissist will point their finger at everybody else because, they project. And so it's not their issue. They're not this way because they're perfect in their own mind, and, so how can it possibly be them? It's funny, when I released the Dysfunctional Dance of the Empath and Narcissist book,
Yeah.
he said, well, do you think narcissists will read it? And I'm like, no, they're perfect. Why would they even think that there was any kind of issue going on with them?
Right. Yeah.
But I will make this piece of commentary. So, narcissism is part of a class B personality cluster, but one of the ones that's very related is, people that are psychopaths, and psychopaths are extremely narcissistic. And so sometimes people confuse the two because they're very similar.
Right.
And so to me, and this is kind of like a generic way of looking at it, is the narcissist, it's just who they are. They're
Right.
very self-centered, you know.
Right.
And the psychopath intentionally does the things they do to get a rise out of people, you know, to
Right.
hurt someone. And that's, you know, and so there definitely is a level of cognition that I'm a jerk and
Right.
I'm going to do these things.
Or
Or,
to jerk things. Yeah.
you know, they just do it. And that's how they
Right.
are.
Right. 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 So Catherine's asking if narcissism is hereditary. Or is it just passed down? Not so much hereditary. You just grow up with it and you become it.
Exactly, exactly. You know, or if you're in a family with, so you could have like a parent that's a narcissist and then you learn how to be that.
Mhm.
You can have parents that are people pleasers, you know, they're sensitive, they're a bit codependent,
Mhm.
and then you might have one child or multiple children
Right.
that take advantage of the kindness of the people around them and become
Right.
narcissists. You know, to me, it really is a nurturing thing, even though
Mhm.
they say there is a certain amount of genetics to it, but I'm
Right.
not feeling it. I'm not
Right.
feeling it.
Right. Right. Yeah, it is difficult because you kind of get into that if you can't beat them, join them thing, you know, when you're dealing with family growing up, kids and having maybe parents or older, you know, siblings or even aunts and uncles. I mean, I could think back to some, you know, I had one aunt who was just ridiculous. So I'm even to this day, I'm just like, nobody wanted to deal with her, but never saw it. It's really a tough thing. So essentially, we are completely in control. I believe in mindset. I'm a huge believer in mindset in any situation. I think you were on the show, we talked about the paranormal and how mindset could actually change, you know, like if you had a really bad haunting, for example, mindset, taking control of your space, being in control of your life and how you react, things of that nature. I mean, I know I've helped people by totally empowering them, changing them around. They're like, wow, I never thought that I had this in me because I've been so scared.
Mhm.
Mindset. So, same idea?
Same idea, you know. To me, the key is becoming aware of what's going on inside. And so there's something that's happening, you know.
Right.
So, you know, and I tell this story in the book, you know, that I was a very scared, shy kid. Not that people believe me anymore,
Right.
but I mean, you know, this was kind of my first experience. It's like it was challenging for me to walk into a convenience store and say hi to the person behind the counter. I mean,
Wow.
it was a white knuckle experience.
Wow.
And you know, and so let's say that's one of your things. I mean, it really doesn't matter, but it's a fear-based reaction. You know, but sometimes you need to just sit there and go, "Oh, I'm scared," or "Oh, I'm afraid." And as my girlfriend said the other day, she goes, "You know, I just take that fear and I put it in a chair." You know,
Huh.
and you just move it over there because then you can look at it and go, okay, I'm scared, you
Right.
know,
And
but,
it's okay to be scared.
and it's okay to be scared or be
Right.
uncertain, you know, but it's not letting it control you.
Right. Right. Yeah. Well, again, reacting to the situation. That's the one thing that we are in control of. So, I mean, if you're looking at it,
Let me throw one thing
go
in, but
ahead. Yes,
not
please.
aware of what's going on inside, which is really what the point of the dang, it was me all along book is,
Mhm.
then you can't change it because you're living on autopilot. And so
Mhm.
just sitting there going, oh, well, I'm going to be happier. It's like it doesn't just happen automatically. It's like you have to recognize, like, well, when these things happen, you know, I like calling it bad brain. You know, it gives me bad brain. And so, you know, what is this?
Bad brain. I can relate. Right.
Well, you know, in the book, I talk about going into your rabbit hole, but rabbit hole is like really bad brain, you know, like you're gone. You know,
Right.
bad brain is like that guy pissed me off, and now I'm thinking about it for a while. That's, that's like everyday bad brain.
Right.
And, sorry, my phone keeps vibrating. It's like,
Oh, no,
stop.
it's like the child who just comes after when you're on the phone.
But until you're aware that you're having bad brain, or that you're afraid, or that you're stuck in negative thinking, you can't change it, because you're just, something happens and you're automatically reacting
Right.
to that thing. And so, the key is, the way to turn off that autopilot is to start paying attention. And one of the things that I've learned, not just from myself, but from other people, is that once you start paying attention to it, whether you do anything about it or not, you decide to make any kind of change, there's going to come a point in time where you just don't want to do it anymore, and you will change.
Right. Right.
But it all starts with that awareness.
Inner peace, I think that's the key. If you can find and achieve inner peace, it's finding the right combination that will, I always call it enlightening awareness, evolution. I think we evolve to a point where anything that insults our intelligence or our spirit, we just naturally push it away. But it's hard to get to that point.
But there's also tied to that, self-worth,
Yes.
self-love.
Right.
We're not really taught to value ourselves and say, this isn't for me. This isn't what I want. This isn't for my highest good. And so there's a certain re-education process that many people have to undergo. Not the narcissist, because they're already perfect, but everybody else.
Right. Damn that ego.
Well, it's about getting out of ego and into the heart, and connecting with source, and getting in the flow and connecting with your higher self, and nurturing that relationship and letting go of the relationship that so many of us have with our egos.
Right. That's a tough one. It's a tough one. I think we're so conditioned.
Yes, ma'am.
From the time we are children, right in through our education, our belief system. That's a really tough one to break away from, like everything that whether you feel safe with it or not. It's all that you know.
And again, we're not taught. We don't have the experience to do anything about it. Really.
Right. I don't know. Looking for happiness. So let's talk manifestation.
Okay.
Do you believe in manifesting your own reality? Do you believe this can be a thing?
So
it's a thing now. Everybody talks about it. I'm going to manifest $1 million bucks.
For years and years and years.
Right.
It was interesting. So I'm writing the book, and I'm talking about getting in the flow and dealing with your negative thinking. And so when I was working, so everything that I talk about in this book and all the exercises are things that I worked with that I found profound. And one of the things that they talk about is, you need to stop the negative thinking. The 17-second rule. You have 17 seconds to shift a negative thought into something. And the literature would say more positive. But when you come from a mind that is constantly negative thinking, there is no positive in there. There ain't jack. The dead dog, the dead husband. That ain't working. It's true.
Oh, okay.
What I heard is that you don't have to change it to a positive thought. You just need to change it minimally into a neutral thought. So whether you tap, whether you count to 10 over and over again, take 10 deep breaths, something that gives your focus on something that's not the negative thought.
Right.
And so I'm doing all this research, and okay, so I have to take a little tangent here, but I better write this down or I'll be go all. One of the things that I discovered, which I found interesting, I'll say interesting. So in doing this research, when you look at traditional literature on mental health, they will talk about every aberration of a screwed up mind.
Right.
And then when they sit there and talk about being happy, it's kind of, well, you can journal and there's nothing. Nothing. And so when you sit there and start, looking up, well, what about having joy or enthusiasm or higher vibrating emotions? All of the material comes from religious, spiritual, or Eastern texts. And
Interesting.
so, yeah. And so when I'm writing this, I mean, I wanted this to be kind of a generic, I didn't want it to be a woo-woo new age book. That was not my goal at all.
Right.
However, if they're not talking about it in the literature, how do you sit there and use vocabulary? It was more about the vocabulary that's more mainstream. There isn't any.
Right.
So I ended up writing a whole chapter apologizing in advance for using words like energy movement and the soul and higher self and God. It's like, I don't want to use those words, but I've got nothing else. I've got nothing.
Right.
Okay. So with all
that's really interesting, actually.
Yeah.
Right.
Which makes you go, I mean, so this book is really written from my voice. And so if you're liking how I talk, this is how I talk in the book. And it's like, if mental health professionals have the corner on happiness, what are they doing?
That's a whole other show, isn't it? Yeah.
So back to law of attraction. So, I'm doing all this research and I keep stumbling upon material about law of attraction and law of attraction. And so law of attraction states that the things that you focus your attention on, and I'm going to put in a huge caveat here.
That's okay.
Are the things that you can bring into your reality. Right. But when you look at older texts, they talk about you have to have not negative thinking, because negative thinking is going to bring negative things in, and, if you say, I want this, God says, okay. And if you say, I don't want this, God says, okay, even though you want it, but whatever.
You're supposed to know.
Yeah. So I ended up putting a whole chapter on the law of attraction into the book, because if the things that I'm talking about, being mindful of your emotions, working on staying in the flow, connecting with your higher source, listening to the commentary of the soul, which are all law of attraction principles. And I was like, well, if it gets me a car and $1 million, I'm all about it.
I'm all about it. Well, isn't it nice if it worked that way? Because it just seems like, no. Mind you, some people say, yes, I've won the lottery a couple of times just by working on my manifestation. Like, come on. Most people are just trying to unload the baggage to be able to manifest just a happy life.
But people put too much attention on, I want this thing. So that was one of the things that was my caveat, was when you look at more contemporary law of attraction people, they say, well, you do this in order to get X. Right. But now you put a condition on it versus I'm going to allow the universe to work through me, and whatever is for my highest good is going to appear. And if I have positive thoughts, positive things are going to happen to me. And if I have negative thoughts, negative things are going to happen to me. Right. And so to me, it's all about staying positive and being in the flow, because once you hit negative thinking, you're already automatically out of the flow, but sitting there going, oh, well, I'm doing this so I can get a car. It messes it up, and I'm going to say it in a different way. It puts the ego right in the middle of your manifestation process, because the ego says, I want the big house, I want the nice car,
Right.
I
Right.
want. That's the
Right.
ego. So when you
Right.
attach the thing, the ego has now jumped into that process, and now it's not going to work because it's not an ego thing. It's a soul, higher self source
Right.
thing.
Right. But it also has to be worded in a way where, there's a belief that when you're doing this manifestation, you have to do it also in a way, like, for example, I want $1 million, just for example. You're supposed to be saying things along the lines of, where's the $1 million? I have $1 million in my bank account. I can't find it. Where is it? And after a while, it's almost like the universe goes, oh, wait, I missed something. Oh, here's your $1 million. Whereas you say, if I need it and I want it,
Then
it's
you
like,
come from lack.
right? It's all apparently like in the wording,
It
but
is. It is.
right. But I think it's good, that you spoke a bit in the book about law of attraction and spirituality to a degree, because unfortunately, I won't say unfortunately, it's fortunate for some, and others just, don't really believe in a whole lot of stuff. But I think it's part of our conditioning. We have to work with what we have and who we are. And for those who are spiritual, or those who do have certain belief systems, the law of attraction, things of that nature, you have to apply and use what you have.
But doing this work,
Yeah.
you're saying spiritual, and there was a little part of me that's cringing.
Yes, of course, of course. Doctor. I know it's
No,
hard.
no. I mean, I'm a very
I'm
metaphysical,
logical.
spiritual person, but
Yes, yes, yes. I play.
everyone on the planet
Right.
has had experiences of connecting with source, God, their higher self. They've
Right.
had experiences of being in the flow. They've had
Right.
experiences of listening to their intuition or connecting with that information that's coming to them. Everybody on the planet has had that experience.
Yes.
So that's why I don't even like to label it spiritual. It's the human experience. This is how we flow. This
Right.
is how we operate. It's just that those dumb psychologists won't put like mainstream words on them. I mean, we only have spiritual words to tie to them,
Right. Yeah,
which
that's
makes
good.
us all be woo-woo people.
I
Even though
know.
I am one, but it's like, I just wanted it to be, I mean, I really had to frame it in, this is what it feels like. You've had this experience.
Right. Right. Well,
And so if you want to call it spiritual, fine, but you can't say that it's devil work because you've had the experience.
right. Right. But it's just not scientific. So, what's the science behind all of this?
There isn't any
Yeah,
technical
ask.
scientific point of view, which was my frustration. I mean, because all you really have
Right.
are metaphysical texts and Eastern texts and,
Right.
that because
Right.
they don't research it.
Right.
And it was interesting because one of the things that came up for me was
Mhm.
they would rather keep you trapped in your own labeling of I'm a codependent, I'm
Right.
broken,
Right.
I have fearful avoidant personality disorder,
Right.
and it keeps you in this less than place versus going, screw all that. I want to have good emotions. And the only way you can have good emotions from my research is connecting to, having your soul connect to higher levels of vibration. And I'm
Right.
sorry that scientific circles don't really want to talk about it, and the ability to measure it
Hmm.
don't have it, which is
But I
probably why
mean,
they don't touch it.
science knows about frequency. I mean, Nikola Tesla knew about frequency, vibration. Binaural beats have been known to heal. Frequency has been known to heal. Surely there must be something in there that they can
We
contribute.
can't measure emotional vibration.
Right.
We can't measure mental vibration.
Right.
So we just don't have the tools yet
Right.
to do that.
Right.
But it's only a little over 100 years ago that they didn't know that x-rays existed.
True.
you know
True.
and
Yeah.
one of the examples I give is about UV radiation. It's like we can't see it, we can't touch it, but you go outside on a sunny day without any sunscreen, you're going to come in burned.
Right. It's there. Right.
There.
Right.
And so this
Right.
dynamic and this part of who we are is there.
So basically we need to all go on a journey of self-exploration.
Exactly. If we want to be happy, if we want to change what's going on.
Do you think we have to pull our head out of the sand? How many of us are just walking around like this all the time, like tunnel vision, and we are being kept distracted and with all the toys and the gadgets, and then, how does one get away from that conditioning? Would it go live off the grid somewhere?
I think, moderation, having a certain amount of self-control.
Well, that's a big one, self-control. That's a hard one for a lot of people.
Some that suggest, and I know I can say this on this show,
right? Of course you can.
These distractions are meant to keep us in line.
Yes, of course.
And to keep us not paying attention, because if we're listening to what's going on in our inner world, we might watch the news with a different eye and go, what the heck?
Where was I? Right here. So yeah, it is a really hard one, because it's a whole new kind of conditioning, and then we end up forgetting who we are, where we came from, right down to different abilities that we have buried inside of us. People are pretty incredible when you think about energy, when you think about our minds, just how we're designed. We have so much potential, and being dumbed down so much doesn't help. How can you find yourself again when you've had years of conditioning, and especially when it's hardcore, because the mighty dollar keeps the world going around, and it all becomes about the big merchandise industry and so on.
But the reality is, like I talk about, creating a mindfulness practice, a practice of paying attention to what's going on inside. But I also talk about, spending some time, and I'm going to say every day, working on your breathing, or tapping, or meditating, or getting one of those like coloring book things. It really doesn't matter what you do to focus your attention on a thing, because when you focus your attention on a thing, you are meditating. Whether you're weeding the garden, whether you're cleaning a bathtub, it doesn't really matter. And so if we spend a little time every day in that intentional focus, we will naturally start to unwind what's going on. And I tell people it's a practice, and I'm like, so my mindfulness time is I take the dog out, and I don't have a fence yard, and like he's on a tether, and then he gets tangled on the chairs, and so I stay out there with him. Sitting on the spring porch so I don't get mosquito bit, and I'll work on my breathing, or I'll work on tapping, or I'll whatever I do.
So basically,
while the dog is out, and it's not like I sit out there for hours with the dog.
Right. So, no, I like that, because, you have this little phrase in the back of your book that says that we move through life unaware. I think it's not just so much which makes us happy or sad. We just seem to be unaware in general. Just have you been, for people who drive, I'm going to say there's a lot of other people out there. Like, I see more and more accidents out there. I think we're just too many people in one space trying to share a road. But when you see unaware, it's not even just looking at your cell phone or texting, or I'll literally see people like zoned out, like they're
dissociated.
Yes. Yeah, completely unaware.
And then it makes you go, well, then who's driving the car? So mind is at work, or whatever, who's driving your car? And then I just have to say, whoever was driving my car,
Right.
not a very good driver.
Nice. So that could be like a double meaning,
No,
driving the car and driving the
because,
car. Right.
Anyway. And
Yes.
so, after a number of car accidents over the years, I have become hyper aware of you're not paying attention to the road. You're not paying attention to the road,
Right.
and because I'm very good at zoning out. And I just obviously discovered that, when I'm doing that, that driver person can't
Right.
drive.
See, how I avoid any of that is I'm too busy belly aching about all those people. I'm like, come on, what the hell are you doing? Like, I am. If you put a recorder on me while I'm driving, I could be my own comedy show.
But driving is a good place to practice your breathing, or practice.
I breathe, Dr. Rita. I'm like, you're kidding.
Okay,
No, I know, but I mean, I am breathing. So.
But it might be a good time for you to just go, okay, I need to dial this down and use that drive time, even if it's just a minute of your drive time.
Right.
To pull it back and relax. And people think that it's hard. And my commentary is, it's a practice, but dieting is a practice, and dieting works when you stop eating all the food. And the practice becomes, well, I just ate this giant bag of Oreo cookies and now I feel guilty. But tomorrow morning, I'm going to get back in the saddle and go back to my normal eating habits. Right. And so this is, you pay attention to what's going on. You maybe practice breathing or tapping or whatever it is that you decide to do.
Just avoid the Oreos. Right.
For that, but then you have days where you have bad brain. And you're kind of trapped in some negative thinking, which is the equivalent to the Oreos.
Right.
And going, okay, I'm having bad brain today, but, maybe it'll be better tomorrow. And giving yourself permission to eat the whole bag of Oreos and have bad brain and go back to your practice the next day.
Right. Catherine says, okay, so when you're driving, do you ever scold yourself? No.
That would be for you, the question.
Oh, okay. No, I don't. I roll with it, really. No, I do. I roll with it. Kaysen, hello. Would you say that playing entrancing video games harms the mind? Because it could also make you focus as well.
I don't even know what an entrancing video game is. Tells you how much I play video games.
There you go. There we go. So maybe or not. Catherine, I solve many problems while doing mundane routines. So I don't know. There's a lot of people chiming in with comments and such, but I think it is. I think it is very difficult to be able to discipline ourselves and recondition training our minds. And I do think the best way to do that, I agree with you, is through meditation. If you are, again, disciplined, you get some people who can't, they're fidgeters, they have to be constantly, I love to meditate, but I find it makes me fall asleep.
That's why I bring, but see, that's why I talk about all these other things, because the point of meditation is the focusing of the mind.
That's right.
Whether you're doing the coloring book, whether you're cleaning the bathtub, whether you put some music on and you start dancing, all of those things focus the mind. Americans suck at meditation. Right. And I find that for me, I need to do something where there's a certain activity. So like breathing is kind of like at the bottom of the list, where it's like it's pretty passive, but you're counting. I find tapping a little more, there's some involvement. But on days that I have like really bad brain, it's like, I go to the gym and I get on the rowing machine, and it works better if you really work on your breathing, kind of like exhale while you're rowing in and inhale while you're out. And there are days that I'm like, I'm just like hardcore breathing, and it's like, oh, I feel so much better.
I exhaust yourself. I know.
Well, but it burns off the emotional energy that's trapped in your body, because when you're emotionally triggered, the body releases hormones into the bloodstream, so it gives you a chance to burn those off while you're focusing your mind.
Right. So you have to become a master of visualization, essentially.
No, not really. It's
No.
just a matter of
You need a plan.
It's just really a matter of doing. And that's the practice. It's just recognizing and doing. And it doesn't, and what works today might not work tomorrow. Sometimes I'll go and do all kinds of stuff and I'll still be like, meh. And it's in those days that I have to just sit there and go, you know what? This isn't shifting, and I have bad brain, and I'm just going to have to be okay with that and give myself permission to let whatever is going on in there that I'm not really understanding to unravel. And what's been interesting since I adopted that policy for myself, work with your tools, do these things, and if all else fails, just pat yourself on the back and go enjoy them Oreos.
Right.
Good. But what I have found is when I am stuck and I let it unravel, the core of what was going on and what the lesson was and how I contributed to it, or what the dynamic was, comes to the surface.
Right.
So, so I'll be sitting on the porch tapping, and then the revelation comes, and I'll be like, okay, thank you for doing it.
Oh, it was me. Right. Yeah.
There's this part of you that feels really good because now you understand, and you can make different choices or whatever.
Right.
Even though you feel miserable.
Right.
And that's okay too.
Right. No, I know. I'm like a squirrel. See, it's like, oh. No, but no. I get it. I mean, I think it's really tough. Are there people that you can go see that would help you with this, doing Reiki or yoga, or are there any psychologists? Are they recognizing this as to be a thing? And
I think there are some. They tend to be more spiritual and new agey in their approach.
See, so it goes right back to that, right?
It still goes back to that.
Right.
They have the traditional training, but then there's their thing that they add on to it. I mean, I work with people on that, but when you work with me, I'll just say this: it's not like you can just sit there and dump on me. It's kind of like, okay, so let's try this. For the next week or the next 2 weeks, it's like, I want you to start paying attention to this,
right.
Because that's how the change happens. Like Reiki, I love Reiki, so I'm not dissing Reiki. Right. But Reiki might take you out of bad brain and make you be whole again, but it's not going to change anything. The only way you're going to change stuff is to look at it and decide you don't want to do it anymore.
Right. So you have to flip that switch and just say, I've had enough.
Pretty much.
Wow. That's hard. I mean, for some of us, it's easy. You end up in a bad relationship. You can't get out of it. There's always a reason. Well, there's kids involved. Well, there's businesses involved. Well, there's always,
But that's the ego making the reason.
Right.
And you're saying, okay, so all of this is more important than my happiness. So I have
because sometimes some people might look at it, the happiness of their kids, for example. Not so much. They're convincing themselves, maybe.
They're convincing themselves. They're lying to themselves. And, usually, we're all sensitive beings. We all pick up energy from each other. And if there's constant fighting and stress and unsaid words in a relationship, you think the kids don't pick up on that? Seriously?
Right. No, yeah, for sure. I think we just don't give them credit. Kaislyn says, would you say that listening to music, for example, and really focusing on it is the same thing as meditating the way a monk would?
And I would say that, if you're really focused on the meditation, yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Interesting. Because they're pretty much like masters at it, So I believe that, you make another point. You can't change your past, but you can move forward. And some people are afraid to change. So then what do? Kick them in the butt? Get them moving?
But
kick yourself in the butt?
It's the only way that this is going to work is that they make the decision
right.
that this is what they want. And so if you're walking around and you're miserable all the time, or you constantly are in toxic relationships and you don't understand why, or there's a multitude of reasons why you might walk around and just be unhappy or have bad brain all the time or find yourself in the rabbit hole. It's like, if you're tired of it, then, the choice is you can stay that way for the next 25 years, or you can do something to change it, And so I hope that my work is the agent of change, that to let people know that change is possible. And it might sound hard, but it's really, the practice part is the easy part. The hard part is when you see something and from in your heart that this is the right decision to make, and then you have to enact it. So I'm going to go back to that story about the convenience store people.
Okay.
Because I was like 19, moved to California. We used to walk to work. We'd go in the convenience store and the woman would say hi, and I would kind of timidly say hi, and I would get my soda and leave. And so, but I didn't like it. I did not like that behavior. And so I decided, because this was my big change thing, that I was going to say hi to the woman behind the counter before she said hi to me. Okay, but it sounds so freaking lame. It's like, oh, she's just going to say hi to her. Oh my God. It's like I'm standing outside the store and I'm like taking deep breaths, preparing myself to go in the store.
So you're like essentially having to talk yourself through it.
It was a white knuckle experience. And so I walk in, I look at the lady kind of, don't even make eye contact. I say hi, and I immediately dart down the aisle, and I was almost having a panic attack.
Wow.
Just by saying hi. So when we start enacting these changes or making decisions that are not automatic, they're not automatic decisions, that's the hardest part.
Right. So essentially it's like, say what you mean what you say, follow through.
And yeah. But we all have our own separate little demons, like that has been my demon for years. And again, I tell people that story and they just look at me like, not that you won't ever shut up, but we don't see we don't see that shyness nowhere. But it does pop out in certain situations, and I can feel it and I don't really know what to do with it, because it's, like at conferences, and I think part of that is I'm too sensitive and I just can't, I have friends that like wander around the show and they go talk to everybody and I just can't do it.
I'm same. People be like, we're antisocial. Like I've helped people do these shows. I'm just helping. I'll help you up behind the table. Don't worry about it. Go wander around. I'll man the fort over here. And people come up and start talking. I'm just like, oh yeah, I've seen you on TV before. I'm like, are you that person, Baba? Maybe. No. I just don't want to engage. Right?
But I can't. It's challenging for me to come out from behind the table. And pretty much the only time is like if I have to pee. I can't even
now I have to go.
Something to eat.
Right. It's like, darn it, I have no choice now. Right.
Say that again?
No, because now you're like, I have no choice. I have to get around the table because I have to find a washroom.
Well, and usually if I'm going to do anything, it's during, like I already have to leave. And so, like if it's a big conference, like when Whole Life Expo was happening, I mean, they were big events. And I would I would take a different aisle to go to the restroom so I could look at the booths. But I'd walk down the center and I'd be like, okay, because I ain't going near anybody.
I know. You have to scope out the whole path from the table and see which is the best one that's going to work to your advantage.
Mm-hmm.
Wayne says, or they're convinced you're writing historical fiction under a pseudonym. Yes, that was very funny. We're just back to a show. Wayne is an author. And it's like one woman found me and completely thought, oh, you wrote these books. I'm like, a big sign that says Wayne Mallows. I'm going, no, I didn't write the book. And a pseudonym. Meanwhile, Wayne is right there beside me. It's like tunnel vision. They didn't even see him. She goes, can we take a picture? And Wayne says, would you like me to take the picture for you? For the two of you, you can get behind the table. She jumped. Like, where the hell did you come from? Like people, I'm saying with tunnel vision, you don't see everything else around you. It's just, I just find a lot of people these days seem to have tunnel vision.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Well, the energy on the planet, I've been saying this since COVID.
right?
The energy on the planet is hard right now.
It is.
It's really challenging for people to relax. It's really challenging for people to ground
Mm-hmm.
on a lot of different levels.
Yeah, different times for sure.
And as human beings, not the medical profession would say that, but we send and receive information from the world around us. And so we pick up each other's vibes. And so,
That's true.
COVID was so hard because there was so much rampant fear on the planet. And it's like, okay, I'm not afraid. So why am I so scared?
Well, yeah, it is very difficult. The world was facing something it had never. Well, I mean, I think we faced it in different forms. Again, that's a whole other show. I have to behave myself, but I know it was new. It was aggressive, and we did things that we never had to do before. We're social creatures. Besides that, on an average, as you're talking about, maybe not, but on an average, human beings. We need some kind of interaction, and it was very hard to have that removed from us. And I think some people kind of went the other way after that. They just, I think it broke some people.
And I
best way to put it.
That, but I'm just talking about,
right.
Okay, so you have this whole planet with, let's say, 50% of them scared to death.
Yes.
I'm going to die. I'm going to die.
That's a vibration all in itself.
Well, and they are sending that out into the ethers where us sensitive people are going, I'm going to die. It's like,
yes.
What?
It's putting it out into the collective, right? Yeah. Yeah. Putting things out into the collective that's crazy. I've tested that theory. Mm-hmm. So I can imagine on a mass scale. I've just done like silly things like put out weird words to see if it comes back at you, like swell, because nobody ever uses that word. So I'm just going to say swell. I'm going to say it like a few times today. And I start hearing it everywhere. I start seeing it written down on social media. I'm like, oh, it's great because it's swell. Who says swell? That's something like out of the, like that's something way back, like Brady Bunch times. That's swelly swell. But I started
cool.
Yeah, right. And cool. That's another one, right? And then so I started putting these obscure little words out, and then I started seeing it showing up, on social media or just hearing people say it. I'd be like, that's hilarious. So I can imagine on a really large scale, just through thought, because we're telepathic. We may not realize we're telepathic. We pick up, like you say, on one another's energies. We vibe off one another, or sometimes we jive with people, sometimes we don't, but I think a lot of it, and I wonder if this technique would work, like if your technique about, no, let's just get ourselves on track and find ourselves. We want to be happy. Can you imagine if people started putting in happy thoughts into the collective every single day?
It would be really nice,
Right?
versus the crappy, I'm going to be super lazy. And even though I have a job, I'm really not going to, this is my recent bitch, I'm really not going to do my job. I'm just going to
Right.
have the expectation that you do my job. And if
Right.
I call you on it, it's like, what? What? It's like,
Right. Right. Right.
it just seems like a very different world. And
Right.
it's been really hard to navigate it.
It is really hard. It is really hard. I think if we could just sit back and think, look at, okay, inner peace, find inner peace, find inner peace. I think it's one of these, it is a conditioning thing as well. It's like being told you're stupid every day. After a while, you start to believe you're stupid every day. Some kids, some people, whether it's in a narcissistic relationship or you have narcissistic parents, if this is what you're told, this is what you start to believe. If you're
Mhm.
told you're beautiful every day, my daughter, every day, I'd say, you're beautiful, you're a princess. And her father convinced her. And she'd look at me and I'd say, okay, you have to clean your mess. She goes, I'm a princess. I'm beautiful. I don't have to clean my mess. I'm the damn queen, and I say you have to clean your mess, Miss 3-year-old. you know, so I think it really is conditioning as well. If we could just do it properly.
Mhm. And I'll just come back to, by raising your awareness and focusing your attention on where your thoughts and emotions are,
Mm,
with the goal of only entertaining positive ones,
mm,
minimally neutral ones,
mhm.
it's going to raise your vibration. Actually, I'm going to frame it in a very different way.
Okay, bend my mind, Rita.
Okay, because it's Dr. Rita, so like this stuff really catches my attention. So this was something that I found that I was like, holy crap. So a little biochemistry here, and I try to keep it pretty light. So in our body, on the cells, there are places that are called receptor sites. And so
Mhm.
the receptor sites is like the lock on your door. And so when the receptor site is activated, it makes the cell do something, release a hormone, whatever.
Right.
Okay. So, but then our body produces hormones. And so each of our emotions will produce a different cocktail
Mm,
of hormones in our bodies, which are go through the bloodstream and hit these receptor sites on the cells to make us feel happy, make us feel anxious, whatever they're going to do, release cortisol, which is a stress hormone. So if we live in a negative environment, negative mental world, if we're stressed out all of the time,
mm.
every time our cells reproduce, they reproduce with more of the receptor sites to take in the cortisol or the other stress hormones. And
Right.
so it's kind of like opening up another line at the grocery store. So now something happens and it's easier for you to get triggered because now you have more places that those hormones can get in and
Hmm.
create activation. I
Interesting.
found that interesting. But here is the more interesting part, the part that gives you hope, that as you sit there and you start changing your attitude, and you start looking for happiness and have gratitude and you say thank you and you pay attention to higher vibrating emotions, the body starts producing receptor sites for dopamine, and other feel good hormones to go into the cell. So that when something happens, you see a beautiful sunset, it's like it can be more profound. And so as you're having more positive receptor sites being formed, you are eliminating the negative ones. And so you actually, on a biological level, change yourself from the inside out. And again, all it
Crazy.
takes is practice.
That
And
is
I'm going to
crazy.
tell you, for myself, 6 months of working with this, and I felt like a completely different person. I mean, I've been working with this for probably 2 years, and I still have moments.
Hmm.
I think we all have moments.
Sure. Sure.
Regardless.
Right.
and I have permission, but a really good friend of mine, she and I, thankfully, we don't never have bad brain on the same day. And there was one day we were getting close
Right.
because I was having a bad morning and she was having, and I kind of cleared through mine pretty quickly, thank God, because her turned out to be bad. And, but it always seems like one of us has bad brain.
Right. Right.
For her, if something happened in her house, like there was a bad rainstorm and a rain gutter fell down, and then she would go into this whole really bad brain. And actually, we've talked about, and this is totally side note, that I think she had some kind of a past life, which she won't go do a regression, where her village burned down. Like I won't look at it, but there's some kind of trauma tied to living environments for her.
Right. Right.
Because there's not anything from her current life that would bring up all of this fear for her.
Right.
So, but she would get triggered and she would have bad brain and she would be throwing up,
Right.
not sleeping and throwing up. And let's see, it's been over 6 months. So, I released the book, sent her a copy, but we had been kind of talking about stuff anyway, but just really working with each other.
Mm-hmm.
She hasn't thrown up in over 6 months.
Wow, that's really profound. So let's look at a real. That's what I was going to ask you because I have a family member who's got severe. I mean, you name it: OCD, PTSD. I mean, there's a whole melee of things, and physically, I think there are people out there like her who can't. They just can't step outside that box of that chaos to go after that inner peace. They just keep getting pulled back in.
But again, that's the choice. So I have a client who I love to death. And when I first met her, and it was with her family because they were working on a family thing.
Right.
And it quickly turned into they were doing the family thing because they were having issues with her.
Right. Okay. Right. Okay.
And I had to call her out on a bunch of stuff because something would happen and her ability to emotionally regulate went into the crapper. And she would just like go off and, like, rah, 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 rah. And I mean, she has moments of bad brain, and when I'm talking to her, it's like, it's okay. It lets you know how far you've moved along. It's like, because you've been doing so good. But less than 6 months, she started to really stabilize, and catch herself going, oh, well, I'm kind of going down that, down that hole of negative thinking and I need to stop it.
Right.
And if I'm going down that hole of negative thinking, maybe I need to excuse myself, especially when she's like interacting with people, and go into the bathroom and go tap or go breathe or go home or whatever, so that she's not going there, because she has discovered that behavior on her part was very destructive and she didn't have control, and so I mean, that was just like, wow.
It's life changing. It's like you almost have to become a participant in your own life. You just can't hide away.
Way.
Yeah, right. No, but people don't realize that you make that statement, and I've made that statement, and people just go, "What do you mean by that?" Well, you can either sit at home, you can wallow, you can be upset, you can watch what's on television, which is upsetting. You can look at what's on social media. I mean, I see it on social media. People are just really upset, or they have things going on. And it's just like, participate in your own life. Just go out and do something that makes you happy, that makes you feel good. And they just don't understand the term, I guess, which to me is pretty evident.
Well, I would bet that there is something inside of them saying, hey, you should do this, or hey, you should do that, or
Right.
You should dump that guy,
Right. Participate, darn it. Participate.
And we choose not to listen. Like I was dating this one guy, and I'll skip some of the gory details, and I would wake up at 3:00 in the morning just like wanting to kick him out, but I didn't.
Right.
And I wasn't happy, but I didn't.
Right.
And
But why does it always happen in the middle of the night, Dr. Rita? Do you ever know how you come across all these amazing revelations in the middle of the night? You either stress out and all of a sudden the stress overcomes and overtakes you in the middle of the night, or all of a sudden you have like a partner who just wants to have a big, deep, crazy conversation, like 2:00 in the morning, 3:00 in the morning. Like, why does everything happen in the middle of the night where we have these amazing revelations and then the daylight hours comes in? It's like, where's that person that was here at 3:00 in the morning?
Okay, so I wouldn't really know what that was because up until this last year, I have not been sleeping more than
Right. Okay.
because this is the Dr. Rita method. Because people ask me about dreams, and I'm like, got nothing. Go to bed, head on the pillow. Within 20 minutes, I am out, and I wouldn't wake up till whatever my regular 6:30 time in the morning, whatever time I was going to get up. I have had earthquakes happen. I've had boxes fall on me. I've had these loud thunderstorms. I've had people get in and out of the bed, put the TV on, turn the light on. All these things that I have slept through.
Wow.
I've been dead to the world. So getting me to talk to you at 2:00 in the morning, that ain't never happening.
Not gonna happen.
Except now that I wake up 500 times, which is annoying. But
Right. So why do you do that?
I don't know.
See, like that's something. Like I know people do that too. I wake up obscurely in the wee hours of the morning, and all of a sudden I was just like, and I'm like,
Although
rhyme or reason.
people that I know, I've been hearing it from more people. Like I used to be able to sleep good, and now I'm waking up, 3:00. 3:00 is like the freaking witching hour.
Right. Yes.
And I do know that like the liver detox is at 3:00 according to Chinese medicine, but it just seems the other day, apparently my boyfriend was up because he wasn't sleeping. So he sends me this text, and I can sleep through the chime on the text, and I got the volume up. I can sleep through that. It don't really bother me.
Right.
But then I wake up and I went to go put something because I'll put like music or something on my phone. And I'm like, oh, there's a text. So I look at the text and he had just texted me at like 2:30 in the morning. So I text him back. So he and I are talking a little bit. And then I was talking to my girlfriend, the one who's not puking anymore. And she was up at 2:30. I'm like, wow, we could all like hung out on the phone.
Yeah, no kidding. So why is that? Like, do you think that's just like pent up something, or is it something unresolved, or are we traveling and we come in for a hard landing? Like,
I don't know. And it's just really been in the last couple of years and this last year has been even worse. So
right. See, that's crazy. See, Catherine says the same thing. I wake up often in the middle of the night, wide awake, wondering why. Yeah, I wonder.
Like last night, I went to bed. I was going to go like turn the light off early. That didn't happen. So it's like almost 11 o'clock, out cold. And then wake up at 11:30. Then I was up at 2. Then I was up at 3. Then I was up at 5. And I'm like, what the heck? And I had a good day.
Okay, I was going to ask you. Were you having things that you were thinking about, unresolved issues?
Nothing.
Crazy. That's crazy.
Which is the part that, like, when I wake up in the middle of the night and I'm like ruminating about something, that I get. But it was just like,
right.
Okay. And,
here we are.
I just want to sleep. I missed my like solid 8 hours. I was an 8-hour night sleeper. And if I didn't get 8 hours, I was not a very happy person.
Wow. And now it's like
You know,
Wow.
go get something to drink, maybe have a little snack, go back to bed. It's like, God.
Yeah. See, Christine says, I wake up early through the night, literally straight out of sleep, just to eat a snack. See, I'm down with Christine. So, yeah. My daughter is kind of one of those sleep bingers as well. Wakes up, goes and snacks, and next morning there's upheaval all over the kitchen. I'm just like, she's staying with us right now, and she leaves us little reminders that I'm here. So
I just take step back up to the room. I call it a bed picnic.
yes.
You know, because usually it's like something on a napkin, you know?
I know, exactly. It's just like, well, you leave a trail, we know where you've been. Don't that's it. Um, Wayne says, here's a good point. I think it's frequency based. There's been a lot of changes in the Earth's natural frequency with the addition to so many towers. These frequencies will have an adverse reaction on you, and they're running all night long. Could it be the reason we're not all sleeping well?
And I can't say yes, but I cannot at all say it's not possible. Hey, Foxy Joe.
Right.
You know, and it's interesting because they did run a 5G wire along the back of my property, but
Right. So
well, you
it's
know,
there.
supposedly that's pretty much when they turned the 5G on because that was like gonna make you die because you know you have COVID and 5G and you're all gonna die. Uh,
Either way, I mean, tell you something. I know when those frequencies fire up because my whole head buzzes. I
mhm,
think when you're really intuitive as well, like we just tune in, I can tune into frequencies. I can pick frequency right up out of a song where I hear the frequency, not so much even the notes. It's
mhm.
gotten weird in my life with stuff like that, but I think it's just because, if you can tap in, you tap in. But they're a little bit different, but they buzz the head. Sometimes it's almost painful. So, but also, yeah, Claudette receiving frequency from the sun. We are evolving. I like to think so.
Into what?
See, there's a question, Claudette. Chime in. What are we evolving into? I like to think we are evolving, into inner peace somehow, and being not just mindful, but being open-minded to
Cool.
certain things.
Cool. You know, and I think that there is a definite faction that's doing that. And then there's the other crazy freaking people on the planet, and it makes it hard.
Hmm.
You know,
Everybody's got an opinion, and I find that people are just very easily offended now as well.
that's kind of the part that I'm talking about. You know, it's obviously not very zen if they're very easily offended.
Right. It's different times for sure, because I mean, I don't offend very easily at all. I like the days of growing up. I could grow up with people and I could look at my best friend and say, you look like crap today. I could be straight up and honest, or she could look at
Mhm.
me and go, like, what's wrong with you? Like, you're just ready to chew everybody's head off. Like, we could say things like that and we could read things and not be offended. But I just find we're definitely in challenging times that way. So it's
Mhm.
hard to find inner peace with yourself, um, in when you have a whole collective around you just going in the opposite direction. You just have to try to reach for that part of the collective that is on the same page as you. And that's real hard to tap into.
No, but if you're vibrating at a higher frequency
And
and
that's
if
what you
that
attract.
is the goal,
Right.
and you sit there and go, that person got bad vibes, and
Right.
just walk away, then you're going to
Yeah.
find your family and you're going to find your home and you're going to find your people.
You're gonna find your people. Yeah, that's where I was saying beginning of the show, like
And,
sometimes if we don't all jive energy wise,
and not settle for the yucky people.
the yucky people. I like that. Straight out of the doctor's mouth. Yucky people. No. No, no. I love it.
Very scientific,
I know. I know. It's great though.
but it's true.
Yes, it is. You're not wrong at all. You're not wrong at all. I think we have to make light of it because, we just I go out with my grandson, and he's just a friendly little fellow. He's always like, hello, hello, thank you, hello. And people just scowl. And I remember, being at a restaurant, and this elderly woman just scowling, and I'm like, and I just looked at her and I'm just like, do you always scowl like that? And she just looked at me. I said, you shouldn't be scowling. It's not becoming. And she's just stared at me like I was just the worst thing. You can insult my grandson by scowling when he says something polite to you. Let me tell you what, woman. See, so it's hard to find inner peace in moments like that. Right? Because people are just angry. And I think sometimes for every action, there's another reaction. I'm a bit of a reactor at times if the right people are involved.
So this is the Dr. Rita quote for the day.
Okay.
Yucky people are yucky.
Dang it. And I have to go with that. I really do. I have to go with that. Yeah. I think the point I was just trying to make is, there's still a lot of innocence out there, and there's still a lot of people who really go out of the way to make that effort. This is a 4-year-old making that effort, that how many of us, like you were saying with the story being at the variety store, just trying to get yourself to do it. And then we have this little 4-year-old, the next generation, coming forward and just putting that kindness out there. And I thought to myself, usually elderly people love children. This one really caught me off guard. But here we are with an older generation, and not looking at the next generation and saying, oh, this is nice. This is a welcome change. They just fall into the none such inner peace.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that is really difficult. Remember Mr. Yuck. Clearly, I think so, Foxy Joe. But yeah, so I don't know. From here on in, then, so people read your book. You are essentially telling them how they can find this inner peace, how they can achieve this. I'd like to say utopia. I'd like to think it's around the corner after everything everyone's been through. But what are your hopes for the book?
There's a huge part for them to just understand themselves. Because you can't become aware, to me, if we can put a word to something,
Right.
A word to our behavior, a word to our thinking, a word to, then we can go, oh, okay, or recognize a pattern within ourselves, so there's really a lot of time directed in helping you to navigate what's going on.
Right.
Because once you understand that, then you can see, like, these are the tools. One of the things that I say in the book, in the introduction, is, my hope is that people will read the book twice. Read the book the first time just so you can understand where I'm going with it. Because
Right.
there really is a method to my madness.
Right.
Then go back and read it to, like, absorb it on a deeper level.
Right.
Because if you're just going through and you're doing the exercises, as they come up, I mean, you can do that. And I would hope that, somebody try 1 or 2 of them. But once you get to the end of the book, it's kind of like, oh, okay. Like, I put the whole game together as to why it's important to address all of this, and you address all of that with these tools. So it's not just all tools. It's laced with some psychology and a whole lot of just plain common sense about this is how people function. This is how we operate, on a functional level and on a, I'm going to say, spiritual level, for lack of better words.
Right. Well, I mean, sometimes it's just a little nudge. It's putting the idea in front of someone for them to think, hey, you know what? Yeah, I think I can do this. So essentially, you're spelling it out. It's like, here, do this, and yes, and wonderful things will happen. Because if you're always thinking negativity, then you will attract negativity, essentially.
Hmm. And again, I present it as a practice. This is something to do. I share this 478 breathing technique, that I learned about it from Dr. Andrew Weil,
Mm,
and his thing was do it 4 times, you know, do it eight, like if you feel practice at it, do it 8 times.
mm,
But basically you're breathing in for 4 counts, you hold it for 7 counts, you exhale it for 8 counts, and you do that 4 times. So what are we talking about? A minute,
mm,
not even a
mhm,
minute. And even if all you can do is that one thing,
mm,
one time every day, you're still working on the unwinding process.
mhm. So, what do you say to people who think it's a quick fix?
It's
Is it
not
a quick fix?
it's not a quick fix.
Not a quick fix, right? It's life changing. It didn't. I mean, I guess it didn't take you, like a week to get that way. It took you most likely a really long time to get that way. So it could take a while to undo the conditioning,
I mean,
right?
and that's really what it is the conditioning of what's going on. Um,
Right. Right.
because I can't be, I'm going to put it in different terms. There are a lot of people that want to learn how to do psychic readings, and be intuitive, and so they'll take a weekend course on
Right.
intuition or psychic abilities, reading tarot, but it doesn't work that way. You have to have time, and you have to have experience, and you have to have exposure
Mm,
to that space of doing readings and being validated, and being able to interact with that intuitive wisdom that comes in order to do it. And it don't happen in a weekend. I mean, I went to the
mm,
Berkeley Psychic Institute. It was a year-long program of hardcore doing 3 readings a week, like 2-hour readings, plus a psychic fair that was once a month for 2 days, and you had to be there 6 hours a day doing readings, and they didn't let you out of the damn chair. You
right.
couldn't hang out,
Right.
for your 6 hours. You had to be in the chair,
Right.
you know.
Right.
But when you left, it's like you can read,
Right.
you
Right.
know, and this is, the same, and you could take it easy and slow, But what I have found is once you do one thing and you start seeing a small shift, especially if you're walking around freaking miserable all the time, and you see a small shift, and like you see the sun kind of glimmering out from behind the clouds,
Mhm.
it's going to motivate you to want
Right.
more and to try more and to pay more attention.
Mhm.
That because again, it's not hard, but it does take time.
Right. And
And
and you're never too old.
I'm old. I figured it out.
I'm old.
My
Yeah.
last week.
I'm old too. So, yeah. 'Cause asking for a friend. So, you know,
Yeah, that's it.
that one works. Yeah. But so what about reconditioning, like, let's say for children, like, let's say for young parents who are now the next generation that we are bringing forward, what would you suggest?
Um, it becomes a little bit of a slippery slope. So one of the things, and no mean cards or letters from anybody, but there has been this like hands-off approach to
Right.
child rearing
Right.
that we have seen, and they produce a generation of kids that don't want to work, that don't want to try, that, if they're having to do something, they have a panic attack
Mm,
because they were brought up under entitlement,
mm,
and they are a very narcissistic group because narcissists grow up under the entitlement core belief that, you know, I took this weekend course and now I should be the president of the company because I'm
Right.
true. It's true.
Right.
And I understand, they were trying to be loving and, accepting and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But
Right.
that experiment didn't work.
Right. Right.
When I was raising my kids, and they're my stepkids, who I used to call them Neanderthals because they were bad.
Oh.
Like not bad, but they would like fight with each other and put holes in the wall and just they weren't respectful of their things.
Right.
They would get stuff and break it.
Right.
And my whole thing with them is it needs to be an equal exchange of energy. So if you want me to go do whatever or give you money, then, and I didn't mean it from like this transitional thing, but what am I going to get?
What's in it for me? Right.
Well, but it wasn't that. It's kind of like, I'm not just going to unfetteredly give to you. It's not going to be this one way dynamic. There needs to be like, you don't have to do it today, but if I ask you for something, I need for you to respect that and give back. They're bad. When I first met them, I was like, so this is how Rita flies. If you don't buy me a Christmas present, you ain't getting shit.
I just love you. You just really do. So, wow.
And it could be, like a candy bar. There wasn't like it has to be this thing. It just needs to be an exchange.
Right.
But they grew up to be two great young men. They understand consequences because it's like, well, this is what the rule is. And, if you break the rule, there's going to be a consequence. And I'm usually pretty upfront, like, this is what the consequence is going to be.
Right.
So, and, and they understand what hard work is. And they're like Homo sapiens now. They're not Neanderthals.
Right. Evolution.
Right.
Evolution. So are they ever too young to start with? I'm not talking like newborn or infant. But once I think they start, like, for example, 4 years old, 3 years old, where there's the total cognitive, my little prince, he's totally knows to be polite. He knows when to say please and thank you and hello. And, is there any age?
I think that's perfect. Most of the programming we receive is before we're 7 years old.
Mm-hmm.
But even a infant picks up on the vibration. And so you might have this baby, and the mama is mean to it, or there's fighting going on in the house, and the baby is going to pick up on that bad vibe.
Right.
Or if the child, the 2-year-old or whatever, experiences some kind of trauma, they might not be able to verbalize it, but they will have a somatic reaction to it.
Well, they're empathic, like right off the bat, right? They've absorbed that. But
there's also they don't have words to put to it. So it's impossible for them to explain because it's all on a feeling level. So something might happen, like people that have abandonment issues. It might be that when they were an infant, the mom was like, oh, let the baby cry, kind of thing, and I'm just kind of making an example, and then the child grows up thinking, oh, well, no one's ever going to come to me. Well, that's like little teeny baby, but they end up living the rest of their lives with that as a fear.
Right. I think, part of the key is, that his parents have been very mindful, just, of how he feels about things. Oh, you don't like to do that? Why? Where some parents are like, you're doing it and that's all there is to it. Never been that way. This is an exceptional little human being already. And I'm not being biased, of course, but I mean, I look at my son and go, Why were you like that at this age? Then I realized, oh yeah, that's on me or on his dad, or so it comes back full circle as to it's about us. We are in control as to how things go. But I wanted to ask that question because we are, we're catering to people where we're stuck here. We're trying to find this for ourselves, but then it goes downhill into the next generations. Is there a way to achieve that and imprint that before we get to the point where we actually find trauma and have to try to go searching for this and working so hard for it? And it's sad that we have to work so hard to find inner peace.
Hmm. But I mean, no one ever talks about it. No
Right.
one makes it be a goal, just like, no one tells you to pay attention to your feelings or to
Right.
honor your feelings or to validate your feelings. We're told, as a parent, my feelings are important and what you feel is not.
Mhm. Right. No, that's true. That's true.
Okay, so I want to share this totally off topic.
Right.
For any parent that's out there, this is my favorite punishment to give to my kids because I came from an abusive household, so there was no way I was going to hit them. I think I hit one of them once, and
Oh.
or I twisted his ear because he really pissed me off.
Uh-oh.
Well, and took him into a different room. So, and they were Neanderthals. They were pains in the ass, and
Well.
and so my favorite punishment was they had to sit at the kitchen table and they had to read one of my self-help books of my choosing. And it would start that they would have to write some kind of a book report about
Mhm.
the book.
Mhm.
And as they got older, they had to write about what did they learn from it
Mhm.
that they could apply to their lives. Well, I have to tell you, my one son who spent a lot of time sitting at that table and read through a lot of my library has become like the go-to guy where people loves because he's read all these books.
Right. That's great though. That's great. Obviously absorbed it too. Didn't
Mhm.
just, go through the motions. So,
I mean, I think his favorite one, or the one that he got the most out of, was Seed of the Soul, Gary Zukav's Seed of the Soul.
hmm, why? Did he say? Or
Because
why do you
I think he could hear it, the way that it was written that, I mean, 'cause he
right,
was like 15, 16, he could actually hear that book.
right. Right. I love that when you can resonate with something just so, so deeply, like your narcissist and empath book. You know how many people resonate with that book?
Hmm.
Because it's usually, they gravitate to the empaths because, you're just so soft and so easy to manipulate. So I don't know. You know what? I love your books. I love everything that you've come on and talked about, over the years. And this book is I love it. I think it's just I'm going to put it back up. In fact,
Then I won't like hold it up.
hold on, I'm going to put it right back up. I love it. I just love her face.
Well,
Yes.
I was looking for pictures for the cover, and people were like, "Well, you should just have your face on there." And I'm like, "Nah."
Why not?
I'm like, one, I would have to like find a photographer and find somebody to do my hair and makeup, and I'm kind of old and a little wrinkly now. Like, no, ain't happening.
Right.
And I am looking for images and looking for images because I knew I wanted a person on there,
Right.
obviously because of the name. And this woman had the expression on her face, like a lot of the other ones, the models were like, I mean, they were plastic looking. This
Right.
woman was able to take these emotions and just have them come through her face and
Right.
body language. And so I had this whole collection of different images of her doing, like there was one where she's like shrugging like, "Ah," and,
Right.
and
Right.
that's the one that I ended up picking. But
No, it pretty much her face pretty much says it all. Like, what? It was
yeah,
me all along? What do you mean? So it is a hard pill to swallow. I know we're coming back full circle. It's really hard for someone to hold themselves accountable for all the bad relationships, because you are conditioned to hear it takes two. No, it takes two of you. So why are we taking all the blame for the other person?
But it's not just relationships. It's like, so my girlfriend, the pukey one, was sitting there and she had been whining about work a lot. She
Right.
wants to retire, blah, 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 work, 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 which I get. But I
Right.
finally made the comment to her of, and it's been more recently, it's just been challenging. I said, you keep sitting here and you keep putting out this negative vibration and your mind is filled with this negative energy around work.
Mm-hmm.
So is that why work is so bad?
Right.
Because you keep putting this negative energy out.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, so that happiness might be at work. It might be in your, like if you have a business, in your business. It could be in your hobbies. Finding happiness is not only relegated to our personal relationships, but it's in everything, because we're kind of cranky people.
Mm-hmm.
We're good at finding stuff to crank about.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Find happiness when you have to sit there and drive to somewhere. I mean, some people, you tell them, oh, well, you got to drive across town, and they immediately go into a negative headspace. It's like, well, what's that about? How can I find happiness while I'm doing something how can I find happiness while I'm mowing the yard?
Wow, easy. Just look around and look at the environment, look at nature, look at the birds and the trees, look at the flowers and the wind, anything.
But if your normal mindset is,
Right.
oh my God, I gotta mow the yard, you know, how can I find happiness in that,
Right.
or at least neutrality in that?
Right. 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 Yes, my goodness. I found my lost tribe. Ladies are speaking my language. Well, you're amongst friends for sure. For sure. Well, I go back to the drive. We say, well, we're just taking the drive across town. How can you find, happiness there? I love to travel. I have been a world traveler. I've been so grateful. Not everybody loves the plane ride, like 10 hours just to get to the other side of the world. I actually do. I love to fly. And I just take great enjoyment in anything I do that way. If we're taking a road trip or we're going to go up north and visit the family, it's like 4 hours. It's just great just to look around, see what it is, have conversation. If you're by yourself, listen to some music. Like, it can be done. If you're happy in your own skin, you're happy within your space, make your space so you are happy with it. I tend to lean to things because I'm an old soul and I have certain lives that resonate more with me. And I feel comfort. People are like, oh, you have all these amazing old Gothic pieces. I mean, they're really old Gothic pieces because I travel to the same places where I feel they resonate with me. I have things that I resonate with because when I say things, and my furniture, I have to have furniture, but I do get a bit excessive. But I feel like it takes me back someplace to a time where maybe tumultuous or not. Who knows? We don't all know the extent of our past lives, but there's something that draws me to the fact that I need to be within a certain space to feel really good.
Mm-hmm.
That might be nothing more than having, one piece that you like, having a room that's your favorite color, like anything. Call me crazy, but that's what works for me. And I don't always have inner peace. I work a lot and there are days where I'm just pulling my hair out
Mm-hmm.
and I'm trying to find that, you know,
That's
and
Zen.
right? You're trying to zen out. And then I usually try to do it with this guy. So
Mm-hmm.
one of my little crystal skulls. It's like a little Buddha belly. Come on.
And then you want to just go like doing, doing, doing. I
Oh,
joke around, so
yes.
I
Yes.
I live in a brick house. I mean, literally, it is a brick house, and so there's that saying, like I should just bang my head against a brick wall. I'm like, I got plenty. You can borrow some.
Right. Right. Exactly.
It won't damage it. There's no sheetrock.
No, we'll all have to find our way. And where can they buy your book? Where can they find your book?
Okay. So the Dang book, the Dysfunctional Dance of the Empath, the Narcissist book, all of my books are available on Amazon, Barnes, the regular bookseller places.
Right.
If they would like an autograph copy, because I'm not Amazon and I can't offer free shipping and,
Right.
blah,
Right.
but it's autographed. They can go to my webpage, soulhealer.com. That's SOULHEALER.com, soulhealer.com.
That says right to the book page, people.
Yeah. And anything that they order, book wise, product wise, will come autographed.
Mhm.
But they can also go there if they would like to schedule an appointment for a session, or if they need, I work as a medical intuitive and intuitive counselor. And so if there's stuff going on in their life and they need some help unraveling what's
Right.
going on, that's my day job.
Right.
And where are we? And I would like to just share with the listeners, this is my new pitch.
Right.
On Thursday night, right before Michelle's show, I do a live stream called Thursday Night Live with Dr. Rita Louise, or with Dr. Rita. And basically I'll talk about a topic for like 15 minutes, and then I open up the chat and people can get on-air psychic readings for free. And all you have to do is say, I would like a reading. And wherever you are in the queue, I just work my way through the queue and you can get a reading. And the easiest way to interact with it, because there's a lot of platforms you can stream to, but you can't do the text part, is through YouTube. And so if they go to Just Energy Radio on YouTube, so that's 3 words, Just Energy Radio.
Right.
And at 7:00 p.m. Central Time, YouTube, Just Energy Radio, click the live tab and join us. We have a lot of fun. You get to hang out with me, which I never know what is going to come out of my mouth.
See, I love it. I love it. And it's all in the write-up as well. I'm just double checking that right now. Facebook, YouTube. Yeah, it's all in the write-up. So you can find it just right on this show, whichever platform you're on. And you can just click on it and get right over to see Dr. Rita's show. So, we'd love to steal her and bring her over here, but anyway, leave it right there. A little bit of food for thought. But thank you so much for coming on. It's just such a pleasure. Oh, it's always such a pleasure. I know Amelia is just like, I just have to get sick at the worst times, it's always when, because it's kind of like a little reunion, which is nice. So, right. So, Gina said, hello.
Gina! Hey, girl.
Aw, but we have you coming back on again, and we have a lot of great topics coming on. I think you're going to be a frequent flyer with us until the end of the year, to which we're very glad. And yeah, so thank you for spending the evening with me.
Well, thank you for having me. I had a really good time.
Aw, thank you. So did I. A few laughs is always nice, and a few little thought things that they don't like you talking about, but I had to just slide it in there anyway. So,
and my hope is, if I can plant a seed for someone for their next step, I'm good with that.
Yes, I'm same. Firm believer in that. I think it happens. Baby steps. Much like finding inner peace. Baby steps.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Well, thank you. And now we close off. Thank you to everyone who tuned in. Guys, you guys are awesome in the chat room. Nice to have Dr. Rita's people joining us. Welcome. And we hope we'll see you again. It's always nice. We have a lot of people that come over. And when you're done with her, just plop on right over to us. Especially the next time she's on. So, guys, tomorrow night, or not tomorrow night, what am I on? My God, I'm already on Thursday. Next week, we're bringing on a good friend of mine, Dr. Yana Greenberg. And she's also a host here on the show. Well, she's got 2 shows here on the network. She's got Science and Paranormal, and she has another show called Be Honest, which I think I'm going to hook up Dr. Rita with for that show.
I was thinking
Yes.
that. Yes.
Oh, yes. Okay. We can make that happen because she loves talking about narcissists. So I'm
Okay.
thinking, wait a minute. The whole time you were talking, I had Dr. Yon in the back of my mind. But anyway, she's going to be joining us next Wednesday. Thursday, we welcome back Jack Roth, who will be discussing his final film, Extraordinary: The Revelations. And he's a hoot. God, he's just awesome. This will be his 3rd time on, and we're just so grateful. So, guys, have yourselves a fantastic weekend. Be safe, behave a little bit at least, and we'll see you all next week. Good night.